Hey everyone, welcome back to another video of Father and Son Sports Cards. We have another episode of Road to the Hobby where we take a deep dive into the perspective of fellow members in the hobby, how they got into the hobby, where they are currently, and where they see the hobby going in the future. So today's guest, I have my friend Colton, also known on our Discord as TACOSZN. Colton, thank you so much for joining me today and agreeing to be my next guest on here. So just a little background information on Colton. He is or has been a Discord member since December of 2023. You
Yeah,
are one of my most recent moderators on my Discord server. And so I do appreciate everything that you've done since the day you joined the server. You're a wonderful person to have in there. Positive attitude. And other than you're a Yankees fan, I think a great person.
well, I appreciate it, Matt, and good morning, and thank you for inviting me. And I appreciate, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of be a part of the community that Father and Sons has created. I think that was, something I've kind of expressed to you and Alex before. Is that I thought this was a really kind of special and unique, kind of community where the focus was on, the hobby as well as the sport. And then, obviously as a dad myself, I like that, that there's a decent chunk of, parents as well. So there's a whole good combination of everything kind of all put together in one, nice community.
So we'll go ahead and start with a little bit of background, kind of learn a little bit more about you. How long have you been in the hobby?
The very first time I opened, or at least I guess I bought cards, was actually in fourth grade. So in 1999,
Okay.
at the Scholastic Book Fair, and this was not wasn't baseball. It was actually football, but it was this box, and it was made by Pacific. It was 1999, so but it was 1999 Pacific, and then in there was like this little book, and just kind of taught you a little bit about all the cards, and then of course there was packs in there, so that's where I first kind of got hooked. I actually still have a vast majority of all of those cards, so I've kept them. But it was, I remember distinctly, I had Troy Aikman, and it was like a base card. I didn't know the difference between like numbered or parallels or inserts, but it was just a base Troy Aikman card, and I legit thought, I was like, holy shit, I'm going to be rich. That's like, but there was so many like cool like I even had a Donovan McNabb rookie card.
Yeah.
And this was before when I think the rookies didn't have like NFL jerseys on. So it was him like in his Syracuse jersey.
Yeah.
And then of course, and so I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm really gonna be rich. So but yeah, so like I think that was what kickstarted it. And then and as I got older, I kind of primarily stuck with football. So it was there was a family friend at the gym, like at the health center, that my parents would take me to. And so as I was growing up, like he would always kind of kind of verse me in different sports. So usually it was like basketball or racquetball, but we would always bet like a pack of cards on it.
Okay.
And so if I beat him, then he would give me a pack of cards.
You're a Tennessee Titan fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in that, obviously the same year, right? So 99, right? They go, obviously they go to the Super Bowl. So,
In New Orleans, I
um,
will say,
oh yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and that was,
against the
so I
Rams.
think, yep, against the Rams. And so that, right? I think the cards plus, obviously becoming a Titans fan, I didn't know a whole lot about like expansion teams, if you will. So I didn't, I was like nine. So one day I was kind of being like, my dad was a Steelers fan. And so I was just kind of being a little shit when the Titans were playing the Steelers. And so I told him, I was like, oh, I hope the Steelers lose. Like, so it's a terrible like entry into being a Titans fan because I was just like, oh, I like their uniforms.
Yeah.
Like I think they look cool, and I never heard of them before, and I was like, I hope they lose. And so of course, like the Titans beat the Steelers, and then you have the Music City Miracle, and
Yes.
then they go to the Super Bowl, and then it was just I I've been a sufferer since.
Now, how did you first get into collecting baseball cards?
Yeah, so baseball was actually more recent, a lot more recent. I've kind of always kind of followed the sport more. I kind of followed players more than like teams itself. Baseball wasn't super big in our house growing up, so it wasn't like kind of like my dad was like a Steelers fan, so then naturally you think he'd be like a Pirates fan or something like that. But I mean, he's actually born in Ohio, in Iowa, so he like rooted for the White Sox and stuff like that. But I had no interest in like the White Sox
Hmm.
or the Pirates. So I think it was more so just growing up, kind of having sports in the media, and then just me enjoying sports in general and following teams. I really gravitated towards Mariano Rivera, and so like he's my favorite Yankee of all time, and really favorite baseball player. And so the for collecting baseball happened kind of when my son started playing baseball, kind of, or at least showing interest in the sport. And so it was a little bit of, he kind of saw that I had football cards, and then, he had asked about, baseball and baseball cards and stuff. And so that was something that I kind of had to learn up on like really fast. So it was probably like probably 2023
Okay.
was, but plus also I wasn't doing like, I mean, probably for a good, like, other than like teenage years to maybe like my 30s, there was like zero collecting.
Okay.
So I'm like one of those guys that like, in the 30s is kind of like re-entering into the hobby. And so that was another reason why, joining FSSC, Father and Sons, right? Why that was why I enjoyed it so much, it was just, I got to learn. It was a really kind of low key, kind of a chill place. Everyone was really helpful, and so I think that kind of helped me feel more comfortable, kind of entering into the hobby without not really knowing a significant ton about baseball cards. I knew tons about football, baseball, hardly nothing.
Yeah, so being that you've been with us since December of 23, you kind of joined in early on, I would say, seeing as we opened the server around that September, October time. So you were probably with us
Yeah.
when we had maybe 30, 50, members.
Yeah, and I think I actually was invited like in the very beginning because it was off of like Reddit.
Okay, yeah.
I think I was invited when you guys first started it, and I joined, but I couldn't figure out Discord. I couldn't. I couldn't.
We get that to this day. We have members that join and then we never hear from them again because they never figured out Discord,
Yeah,
or they continue to participate
yeah,
with limitations because they're still figuring out
it,
Discord.
yeah. So I think I actually left. I think I joined and then left, like maybe a couple of weeks later, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, all right, let me just stick to Reddit, one thing at a time.
Okay,
And then, kind of by way, like a few months later, I guess I got I
another
don't know who
probably
invited me. Yeah,
probably
another one.
another post when we were posting to kind of
Hmm.
promote the nonprofit. You
Yep.
probably saw the hits or something from our nonprofit break
Yeah.
and may have joined
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah. And then, and again, like I think when I joined, and I don't think I bought into a break until maybe like the spring. I think I still like had a learner's curve, and I was like, all right, but I got to it eventually.
Yeah. So we'll go into a little bit of detail on your specific preferences on your collection. I know you're an Austin Wells fan. I know you're a Volpe fan. You used to be a Soto fan when he was with the Yankees. But when you're looking to add, we're just talking singles. We're not talking breaks or anything like that. But when you look at buying a single card,
Yeah.
do you look at a specific focus or a theme when you're looking to
Oh,
buy?
I think, and this is, I think that's kind of the beauty of baseball card collecting and really collecting in general is that, there's so many different ways to kind of collect. And I would say that I'm kind of still learning on kind of what I envision my collection to be, right? I have these ideas. You know what I mean? I love black and white cards. So I will take Gypsy Queen black and white parallels all day. I like the black and white like mini diamond refractors. So whether they're autographs or just the you know refractor in general, right? I love those. Like I love red inks, but I can't say I love them on Heritage. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
like,
I
and so
find the real one autos and heritage is an acquired taste. Some people
yeah.
absolutely love it.
And so, but in that same kind of in that same space, though, I have a lofty goal of collecting an autograph for every Roberto Clemente award winner. And so, obviously, because the award when it first started, the first recipient was Willie Mays, in 1971, and I want to get a card from that year.
Mhm.
So I want to get a Willie Mays that's 1973 or whatever. I want to get it for 1971 and have an autograph. So I mean, obviously, it'll probably be something that's authenticated, but for every year. But I think in keeping that kind of retro design, I think some of the newer guys like last year, like Salvador Perez, I would want a heritage, right? Because I think the display, like I don't know, it's like aesthetic, but it all kind of matches. They're all made out of the same, kind of card material and stuff. But outside of that, you couldn't catch me dead with heritage. I don't know. I just don't like it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's something I'm learning towards still, and then whatever I am trying to look for in a card, I think there's a balance between is this something that is I don't know. I always do I enjoy looking at it?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think that's probably the thing that I consider the most. Is do I enjoy looking at it? I don't care whose name is on it. Like, do I enjoy looking at it? And then kind of go from there. Like, is it like financially responsible? Like, because I can like a lot of great looking cards, but yeah, like sometimes you just the amount of money
Will the
that
family still be able to eat this week?
yes, or yes, will I still be married after I buy this? So yeah, so I would say honestly, really, it starts with do I like looking at it? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it is a card. It is like something that I want it to be display worthy, and if I got to look at it, then I want to like what I'm looking at.
So we talked about some of your favorite players. Is there one or two in particular that you would say you collect the most?
It's still Juan Soto. So, but like more so like with his Nats, right?
Okay.
There was, obviously being in the DMV area and having the opportunity to go to Nationals games when Soto played with the Nats, right? That was I had more free time in my hands. Like I didn't have kids, you know what I mean? And so like there was a lot more just involvement in the sport. And I think that's what kind of gravitated me towards Soto. I know like some folks kind of, obviously his Soto shuffle like doesn't necessarily kind of rub folks the right way,
Some
but
some people like it. It's entertaining. Some people are very old school and just want you to stand there and hit the ball like you know how you're supposed to do it.
yeah, and that's kind of part of it. I like the entertainment aspect of it, but then I also like that I like that he has the confidence to do it. You know what I mean? And that he actually has the ability to back it up, right? You know what I mean? I think, there's something to be said for, I want to say like showmanship in a sport.
Hmm.
Of course, like obviously they always teach you to be a gracious loser, a gracious winner. Like I understand all that, right? And there's a time and a place for that.
Hmm.
But if you're there and that helps you kind of get into a mindset to perform better, who am I to tell you not to soda shuffle? Because
That's a great perspective on it. You know,
you know,
I think I didn't really consider it that way, but I could appreciate that. And I have
yeah,
nothing. I have nothing against the Soto Shuffle. Although he is, he was a Nats rival for some time, and now he's a Mets rival until seems like the day I die.
yeah,
It's the same as when Bryce Harper signed, with the Phillies. I was devastated the fact that he was going to be a division rival for the next. I think he signed for 13 years, something like that.
yeah. And I mean, that was a little bit of a gut wrencher. You know what I mean? I don't know. I want to say the departure for Harper like felt different than the departure for Soto from the Nats. You know what I mean? I think probably winning a World Series probably helps. So, I don't know, maybe kind of people kind of felt Harper like kind of quit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then, um, but I don't know. I would say like Soto for one, and then really collecting wise, um, like I'm torn. You know what I mean? Um, I think I would still say Mariano Rivera is number two, but I only I only say that in the sense that that's the player that I'd be willing to spend like more money for.
Okay.
You know what I mean? As far as buying, refractors from, the early 2000s, you know, um, cards of that nature. It would, especially with Mariano Rivera or like Jorge Posada, like Hideki Matsui. Like I love him. I want to collect cards from those like players' times.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so I would say probably I don't know. I gave you a lot of players. I got so
Yeah,
many.
I know. No, I understand. You've seen my Braves collection, so you know how it could just go on for days. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what is your favorite card in your entire collection and what makes it
Mm.
so special to you.
So my favorite card, it's actually the 1973 Roberto Clemente. So it's the Topps card that has his last at bat, obviously before his passing. It has exactly 3,000 hits. Like if you look at the back,
Yeah.
and it's meaningful for me in the sense that when I was younger, I was making less than responsible choices as like as a young teenager growing up, and so and I was even before young teenager, really kind of late elementary school. Like I was like borderline going into like I don't know, like delinquent territory maybe. So, but in any case, my parents had given me a book, a biography on Roberto Clemente, and they had always, really kind of preached community service and being involved, in kind of, you know, giving of yourself, right, and giving to others, and so. Like I'm like obviously as someone who works in public service, you know what I mean. I want to say I kind of um, like kind of put my money where my mouth is, right? I believe in public service, right? And so obviously as that being part of my job, he really, his story really resonated with me, and so that's why I think a special part of my collection will be, kind of collecting. And again, this is one of those things whether it's like financially does it make sense, versus the goal, right? Is would be nice to collect, his, kind of his like top cards, throughout his career. And so I'm kind of working my way from most recent to I guess would eventually be his rookie card, but obviously the price kind of got skyrockets. But yeah, they're special. And then also the fact that my dad, spent a significant majority of his life from Pittsburgh, and
Okay.
I think that's part of the reason why, kind of just Pittsburgh in general, and just kind of all that tied in.
So Colton, I'm going to go ahead and ask you what is, and you may have already mentioned it. It could be the Roberto Clemente. Is the Roberto Clemente rookie card your quote unquote Grail card, or is there another one, maybe a Mariano Rivera out there? But tell me, what is your Grail card? Something, or have you already found it?
Oh my goodness! So, Grail card is tricky because I think I have to like kind of know what it is, right? And so like I think I almost want to kind of have a Grail card for every like player, like in my player PC, right? I would want like a Grail card for Mariano Rivera. I would want a Grail card for Roberto Clemente. I would say the Grail card for me for Roberto Clemente would be 1973. You know what I mean? Because of the significance of it and kind of its personal meaning to me. So, if I never end up getting a Clemente rookie, then that's okay. But I'm extremely happy with just having the 73. And so I don't know, like Grail is to me is like I would almost kind of interpret it as what's the most meaningful and significant, not necessarily whether there's like monetary value attached to it. So, like I would love, like for Aaron Judge, like I kind of already know what it is. It's his 2017 Stadium Club autograph, right? I love it. He's got his hand on his heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, it's clearly during the national anthem. Like, that's my Grail card for Aaron Judge. Is I want an autograph for him, whether it's the base one, whether it's the gold, whatever. That's a decision I'll make when it comes time to it. But um, for Juan Soto, it would be the 2018, Topps 5-star. The autograph is on card. I know I want it out of 25 because it's the blue parallel because it just looks nice. Like, you know what I mean? But that would be that. And so, but I would say the ultimate, we got to shift sports a little bit,
Okay.
but it would be football. But it would be a triple autograph of Eddie George, Earl Campbell, and Derrick Henry all in the same card.
Wow. Okay. That's incredible.
Yes, but it only exists in 2019 Don Russ. It's the team lineage, and it's either out of 10 or out of 1. And I had never actually seen the card until I looked at the app called Veriswap,
Yes.
and somebody had said they were interested in my cards, and so I looked through the inventory, and sure enough, like there's the one of one sitting there, and I was like, golly. So I was like, well, I know what it looks like now.
Hmm.
But to me, like, obviously as a, kind of first being a football card collector, um, like I'm a lot more strict with my football than I am with baseball. Primarily because like I like all the old school guys. You know what I mean? Like I don't care about Will Levis. I don't care about Tyjae Spears. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they draft Cam Ward, like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Show me, you know what I mean? If I'm buying a card of somebody, I want someone to have kind of proven themselves. It's kind of in the same vein for Volpe, right? I didn't pick up any of his stuff until really after his postseason from last year. I thought he had kind of performed really well throughout the postseason. You know what I mean? It looks like, and plus him getting a grand slam, in the World Series, like that was, I like something that helps me kind of connect with the player and, want me to kind of bring them into the fold, I guess, if you will. I'm not a big like prospect guy like Jason Dominguez.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to transition into the buying and selling of the hobby. We all do it. What's the most you've ever spent on a single card? Was it worth it?
Okay. So yes, I know you know the answer to this already. So it very much is the Topps Pristine Juan Soto, like 1 of 1
Yep.
superfractor. So
Beautiful
um,
card.
yes, it like I love it, and I you know I, I have to admit, like I'm going to be honest, right? It's lost its luster on me, right?
I understand.
And maybe that was a little bit of kind of learning the hobby, really. I had never bought a superfractor before. You know what I mean? I when it comes to like looking at a card and evaluating, like because it was like just shy of 1K like out the door, right? And for my eBay, right, I don't sell on there too often anymore because I had got rid of like I had used it primarily as a vehicle to kind of downsize like a ton, and so I never actually withdraw anything. It just sits there. You know what I mean? If I needed it, then I wouldn't be buying the cards in the first place. You know what I mean? And so I let it just accumulate and just sit there. And then if I find something nice, then really it's just kind of recycle. I don't want to say recycling the money, but
Hmm.
I'm just putting it back into cards, which is what I make it pretty clear on my about page. Like all of what I sell goes back to what I'm spending. So really,
Right.
I don't know if that's like a net zero, but my wife would say otherwise. But
So, so,
um,
so speaking of that, when you are buying cards, are you looking at cards as an investment, or are you looking at it just to because you just really want that card and want to add it to your collection, regardless of its future value?
uh, I I think maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
Maybe a little both because I think because again, like it always starts off with like, do I enjoy looking at the card? Right? I can get 2024 Austin Wells, you know, rookie red ink. That's a PSA 10 for $600, right? I've seen it. Is that potentially a good investment? Because we know that with red inks, right, and if the player performs well, right, then in theory, it's one of the more desirable types of cards that you could sell in the future, right? I'm not. It's still ugly. Like I don't. Like, it's still ugly. Like and so like you know. Um, so I would say like it's a combination of both because I do believe that with newer players like Volpe and Wells, who I inclined to get rookie cards for only now
Hmm.
because their price is relatively low, right? And I within reason, right? I know like obviously if I go for like an out of five, you know what I mean, or like a super factor, then like of course like this an extraordinary amount of money. I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
But an out of 25, can I get it for like $150? Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if I can grade it myself, or in some cases, like I know for like one of my Austin Wells cards, I got it into PSA 10 for less than it was raw, and so I try to find cards that I enjoy looking at of players that I enjoy watching
Yeah.
that if I can get already graded, which I know will protect the value, then why not? You know what I mean? There's nothing further I have to do with it other than set it and forget it. And if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, I don't care because I still like that player to begin with.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm not big on the prospect cards. I'm not really like a big like Bowman Chrome first guy. Um, I know what's the I think it's the pro
Pro
like
debut.
yeah, pro debut. Like I'm not a big pro debut guy. Like I think it just I don't know. And that's part of the hobby that I kind of had to really educate myself on is because with football you either have college or you have professional.
Right.
There's not really too much. You either want cards and they got all their NFL gear on, or you got college cards, and so with this, there's so many different like subsets, I guess, if you will, from like the minor leagues, and then you can obviously get college, you can get the uh, where they have like the international like jerseys and players and stuff like that. Like that's too much.
How has your experience been with buying and selling?
I've found that it's been pretty easy, right? It's been pretty easy in the sense that I've never tried to like treat it as a business,
Mhm.
right? You know what I mean? I don't wake up every day and say, hey, you know what? I got to put 5 listings up on eBay every day. You know what I mean? Because obviously, if it's your business, right, and there's algorithms involved, then you have to like consistently do stuff. And so, when it comes to the selling portion, right, I list stuff. I put it as bin. I don't. I generally don't put offers like allow offers,
Mhm.
primarily because I don't want to have to babysit eBay.
Sure.
If I log on to eBay and there's something that and it says like a little, send offer out, great, I'll shoot it out. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I mean? And so, but every time, like, I mean, I've from starting to sell in September of 2023, um, you know, I've had zero issues.
Good.
I think I've sold like between 400 and 500 items, something like that.
Wow.
And some of them are, I think I think the highest I've ever sold something was close to like $900,
Wow.
something like that. So, but never had any issues, never had any weird eBay like buyers or anything like that. I've done a really good job of just trying to be, um, really thoughtful about how I put together the listing, attention to detail, making sure it's accurate. I do a great job on communicating. So when someone buys something from me, I just send them a message, say, hey, thanks for buying it from me. I'll send you pre-shipment photos. I'll get it loaded up and I'll have it out and I will give them a time and day on when it's going to go out. You know what I mean? So I
Fantastic.
don't, because I think that's the thing with on the buyer side, I always get a little bit like unsure or kind of like a little bit hinky when you buy something and you don't hear anything for like days or there's no movement on it and you're like, all right, I'm less enthusiastic about this purchase
You
now.
almost jump into a paranoia.
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, knowing that there's already, because again, it like I would say that's always kind of the knock with eBay or really any sort of like buying and selling of cards is that generally speaking, you're buying something that is meaningful to you.
Hmm.
And so you want it to be, obviously, you want it to be in great condition. You hope that the seller cares about the card just as much as you do, even though like they're selling it,
Correct.
and so I always try to be mindful of that. Right. And if there's ways that I can kind of lower that, kind of or kind of bring more reassurance, right? Or bring more confidence into the buying experience. It doesn't cost me anything to send a message. Doesn't cost me anything to send a photo. Doesn't cost me anything to like send like the tracking number or any.
So we're going to switch over to the new product portion of the interview. So I know I sent you this question earlier. I
Mm,
will take one of the products out as I know you are not a fan of Heritage. But is there a product that we have coming, that Tops has coming out soon that you're looking forward to the most? Or is it,
mm,
and I'm talking obviously Bowman, you're not a prospect guy. And I will
yeah.
say personally, I'm not either, but I will be chasing those LSU players and their first cards. That's the only thing I care about. I don't care about, the next big Paul
Hmm.
Skeens, Jackson Holiday, Jackson Merrill. I'm looking for, Tommy White's first Bowman Chrome. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
But we also have Tribute. We have Chrome
Hmm.
Black coming out. Or is there just another product from Tops that, based on the calendar year of the season, that will be coming down the line that you're looking forward to the most?
So this is where I would say a little bit, still learning about, the baseball hobby, and that, like, I've never really tracked like the timing of releases. And so, like, I think now, obviously, having like gotten Stadium Club, kind of from 23 and 24, and so I believe if I'm correct, it's like towards the fall. And so, like, for me, like, I can't say I really like time releases. I guess it kind of maybe catches me by surprise. I usually just go to the Discord, and
Okay.
you guys do a good job of obviously saying, hey, this new product is upcoming. Do we want to kind of fill some spots here? What are we thinking about for breaking, whether case or box, whatever. So I genuinely will go by kind of like once I kind of see that it's coming up, I'll take a look at the checklist, and I usually just kind of go to Beckett, kind of get a general idea of what the card design looks like, right? Because I don't know, I always go by like, do I enjoy looking at it,
Yeah.
right? Like Finest for me last year, like I really enjoyed looking at it. Like that was a great
It
a
was a
great
great
release.
product.
I like how all the autographs were on card, and just it was a really nice set. And so I don't think I've seen Inception. I know I like 2023 Inception, but
No,
I don't know if they did away with that.
Tops didn't release a 2024 Inception, which is a shame because that was one of my favorite products.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that when I think there was a video that you and Jack had ripped,
Mhm.
kind of like a personal box, and so I forget. Yeah, I remember you got something like really nice in it though.
Gunner,
Um,
Gunner Henderson
yes,
auto
yeah,
out of 75, I think. Pink.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's always a win. Um, and so again, like I think off the top of my head, I think maybe like probably Inception if they decide to come out with it. I know I enjoy Chrome Platinum Anniversary,
Yeah.
but I don't know like when that falls in the year. Like I don't know.
And I mean, Tops has over the last couple of years, they've they're 2023 and 2024 of the same product. They released at different
Yeah,
times because Tops is they fell behind for some time, and then in
yeah.
2024 they kind of caught back up, I would say.
Mm,
So
okay.
Stadium Club 2023 came out in like January of 2024, but
Yeah.
2024 Stadium Club came out in October of 2024. So, it's not an exact science. All we can kind of do is go off of history.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the pandemic had something to do with a lot of this. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. I think, and that's also part of it where there's so many like different product releases that are getting like just sent out like all the time. And I don't know if maybe like being kind of like inundated with that stuff maybe kind of plays a part with why I don't kind of look ahead too much. You know what I mean? If it comes out and I kind of like the design, I'm more willing to take a look. But if I don't like the design, then I'm like,
yeah.
move on to the next. Although I will say, I would like to know when they put JC Escara into a release.
Okay.
So he's the Yankees' backup catcher,
Okay.
and so he was kind of like this journeyman for forever. And there's a great story where he like crushed his way through spring training, but even then before that, I want to say like he was in like he played internationally, but he was an Uber driver kind of leading up, and then he made the opening day roster, and so he's part of the team, and so he actually got a double. He got a double on his first like at bat, or first game he started, not at
Okay.
bat, but he got like a nice, really nice double. So I made sure to get the Tops Now card of that,
Okay.
because I think I would say for him, like I admire the perseverance, and so if there's something that I can kind of connect with the player, I know he's not gonna. Well, I presume he's not gonna take Austin Wells' job, but but nevertheless, like I love a good Like I love a good guy who's going to grind. You know what I mean? So whenever JC Escar comes out on a checklist, I'm going to get that.
That's a great story. I like that. All right, so let's talk about the future in the hobby.
Mm, mm.
Assuming that things go well and you are in this for quite some time, what do you hope to see in this hobby going forward?
I hope that the prices of hobby boxes go way down.
Okay, let's be realistic.
I think I can speak on the entire hobby when I say that, but um, you know, no, I like for the direction of the hobby. I always hope that whenever someone kind of collects or gets the opportunity to open their first pack of cards, right? It kind of invokes the same amount of joy and excitement, um, as it did for me back in 1999. My only hope is that it's that whatever kind of newer collectors that are getting into the hobby kind of have that same opportunity to experience that same kind of joy, you know, without there being such a barrier, like such a financial barrier. I know that there's a passion for cards, for my son's little league baseball game. I remember the head coach. He had asked. He's like, "Hey, how many of you guys collect baseball cards?" And out of our 12 players, 9 of them raised their hands, and they're like, shot straight up. And then he goes, "Nice." He was surprised that so many did, and then he was like, "All right, if you don't, today's the day you're going to start."
Mhm.
And so I like for the future of the hobby, I just hope that it continues that. You know what I mean? I think price wise, we may be kind of stuck where we're at, and we may be stuck with like a gajillion different parallels, and we get like I remember I think last year with like Chrome, there was stuff where they were like out of 15s and then out of 8s and like all these like funky numbers, and I was like, all right. I like how do I even like the lavas, I think it was like all the lavas were like all these like funky numbers. Like it's bad enough you already got me with like the blue and then the blue refractor and then the wave and I mean all this other nonsense. And I get it, like they want to make money, and obviously you kind of have the manufactured scarcity part of it. It's like, oh, there's only 150 of these, but I understand that, but at the same time, like I still want like just the pure joy of collecting to be there, for especially the newer collectors, the younger ones.
I know you've only been a serious collector, I would say, for about 2 years.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
what advice from your 2 years of experience would you give to, say, a young collector or just a new collector, regardless of their age, but somebody coming into the hobby? What would be the advice you'd want to give to them?
It would be easy. Just have fun. Have fun. Collect what you like. There's no right or wrong way to collect. And this is what I've kind of always used whenever I maybe potentially look at my collection. I wouldn't say like I think I have this mindset as much anymore, but I know when I first started, there's always like this a little bit of like, oh, like keeping up with the Joneses a little bit. You know what I mean? Oh, I want to have. Ooh, I want that nice card. Ooh, you know what I mean? This person has like this entire rainbow of Austin Wells and the superfractor as well, and he's got like 8 different rainbows of Austin Wells. You know what I mean? What, like, why can't I get that? Um, it's just it's not a competition. You know what I mean? You just enjoy what you like. Take your time. Be intentional about your collecting. Having an idea of what I was like truly wanting before like buying into a break or looking for a card or something like that. And like it's just it's kind of one of those things where the more time you take to learn about the hobby, I think the smarter you can be and the more intentional you can be about kind of either buying product to open or buying singles, or buying into breaks. I'm not a like I'm not going to say one versus the other is better. Depends on kind of what your collecting goals are, but you know what I mean? Is just have fun with it and just enjoy. And the more then the less likely you are to feel I guess bad,
Mhm.
like that you made like, oh, like did I make a good purchase? Like did I do good? You always get those like those questions about like needing validation on like a purchase. Like, do you like it?
Let's go well into the future, 5, 10 years.
Hmm.
Where do you see your collection?
I will have an Aaron Judge rookie card. I know that much. I'll have a Juan Soto, and when I say rookie card, like an autograph.
Autograph. Okay.
Yeah. So I am not one of those where just one is fine. I
Mhm.
don't need 1,000 of them. You know what I mean? The window for buying tons of Aaron Judge rookie cards has we're way past that. You know what I mean? I'm more inclined to get a few more of Volpe or Wells because the cost is relatively low.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I'm not opposed to buying several of those. And that's, I would say that's kind of the more the investment side of things. You know what I mean? Like I love Austin Wells, but at the same time, like, do I need 20 of them? No. But could I get a couple? Sure, why not? So I would say that, the Roberto Clemente collection has plenty more additions to it. The Roberto Clemente like award winners set that will have made plenty of progress. You know what I mean? But then again, that's kind of one of those where you know I gotta that one I think would take like a really dedicated focus towards. I have to be intentional about it. Finding cards that like I like
Mhm.
to put together because that one is one where obviously with every year that passes, it's going to continually grow. You know what I mean? So in theory, in 5 years, there's five more award winners, and um, so I would want what I mean something that because that in my mind that would be a probably that in the Roberto Clemente kind of collection of Soli Clemente that would be the mainstay in the collection.
As we come to the conclusion of this video, I just kind of want your thoughts on what is your favorite part of being, I won't say just a baseball collector because you're more than just that, but a card collector.
It's definitely the interaction. The cards are cards. My wife, she could care less about baseball cards, football cards. He thinks I spend too much time tinkering around with it. My son, he's kind of gravitated more towards Pokemon,
Mhm.
but now that he got his free pack of cards from Little League, then he's now like, oh yeah, I want to do baseball again. And then he was really disappointed there was no Aaron Judge in the packs and no Yankees. And I was like, well, I got you, buddy. And so I was like, I got a bunch. I got a bunch in the drawer downstairs. So you have at them. The interaction is what makes it the most fun. I really enjoy kind of being on the Discord, everyone kind of sharing, either the stuff they get in the mail, stuff they purchase, stuff they pull. The breaks are always fun to watch. You know what I mean? As far as kind of like what folks get, because again, it's like that's it's in a way, it kind of makes up for all the times you got bad boxes, you didn't get jack shit, and you're like, all right, well, I'm glad you got something. you know,
Yeah,
makes
I
me,
don't think we could do this hobby if we did it by ourselves.
and actually, kind of on that note, and I've been slacking on doing this, but there is a member in our group who I didn't get a chance to kind of put a post together in the actual Discord. So this might be the perfect opportunity to do it. But I believe the full name is Escherman,
Yeah.
but it might just be Escher. But if it is Escherman, he was very kind he took the initiative on his own. He sent me like kind of like a care package of Yankees cards. So just want to shout out to him and say thank you. And just little things like that. You know what I mean? It was unsolicited. He kind of took the initiative to kind of like, hey, if you have your shipping address accurate in the
On the PC
in the
tracker. Yeah, that's right.
yeah
He
on the
did do
piece.
that.
Yeah, and so shame on me for not obviously kind of shout that out sooner because I think it arrived. I think maybe like 2 weeks ago. I think,
Okay.
but hopefully maybe this will make up for it. So
That's one of the great things about this hobby is when you see those random acts of kindness. And we
yes,
have a
yeah,
lot of members on our Discord that have shown that kindness to me for
mm-hmm.
the work that I do. I don't ask for
Mm-hmm.
it. I just but I do greatly appreciate it. Colton, I just want to say thank you again for agreeing to do this. And
Yeah.
you're an amazing person, as I said before, a great friend. And before we go, is there any final words? Anything related to what you're doing,
Mm.
card related, personal, anything that you want to plug, you have the floor to say whatever you'd like to.
Just one small plug, and I wore this hat on purpose, and I know you didn't see it till just now, but if you read it, I don't know if we can see it.
Yeah,
Life is short. Eat more tacos.
I love it.
So that's it. That's it. Other than obviously, a really, kind of heartfelt and tremendous thank you to you, to Alex, obviously now to Seb for stepping up, for doing the breaking. It is an extraordinary time commitment. I know that there's, and I know you never asked for, it's never solicited or anything like that, but just the fact that you guys are all willing to, take the time, away from your personal lives. And I understand it's a hobby, but not everybody, right? Kind of as far as the hobby goes, kind of has the love and the passion and the willingness to kind of put in all of that, that work, that time, the effort, really the stuff that goes unnoticed behind the scenes of really any break. You know what I mean? I like, again, like I know with, like my eBay stuff, right? That's, kind of it's a whole separate beast. But, when you guys are doing breaks and packaging them up and kind of sending things out, right? You guys have always done, such a phenomenal job, from start to finish. And, so the plug I want to make is for you guys.
Thank you.
So thank you. You guys are the best. And maybe one day my wife will be like, all right, if you want to do some breaks, but I know that won't be anytime soon.
We'll be happy to have you when that time it comes.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun for sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, taco season, aka Colton. Thank you again so much for being here, and
Yeah.
we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Matt.